Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. It's Friday, it's 5pm. I hope you've got a delicious can in your hand and are finally cracking the first Turbo Shandy of the weekend.
Turbo Shandy, Johnny? What is this? The Shandy Boys channel? Finally? With the channel we've all been waiting for?
I'm not sure all of us has. I think it's just you. Certainly judging by the
Okay.
viewing figures of our Shandy episodes.
Yeah.
This is. I got a real bee in my bonnet this morning. My wife got an earful about it, so she's having a great day. But we're just going to dig straight into the news because Turbo Radlers. Sorry, they've gone for Radler, as if that's different or better.
Yes. Yes.
Firestone and Walker have released. So Mind Haze is like their IPA kind of brand. And they've now released Mind Haze Lemonade Rage Turbo Radler and Watermelon Rage Turbo Radler and Grapefruit Rage Turbo Radler.
Grapefruit Rage Turbo Radler.
Yeah,
And this
8%.
This is a beer product?
It's a Radler.
Yeah, it's a multi hoppy beer product.
Yes.
That has other stuff with it. So is it like a kind of Smirnoff Ice in that it isn't all beer? It's that has more to do with beer, doesn't it, than vodka? Smirnoff Ice, I believe. Sort of.
Yeah, I think we discovered that somewhere along the line, that it is like a fermented. It's not a distilled beverage. It's a
exactly.
Yeah, I mean this
fermented.
is just a shandy. Let's not overthink it. It's just beer with lemonade or watermelon aid or grapefruit aid, but they've got it to 8%, which is terrifying. So either they've spiked it or they've brewed a beer that I presume is roughly 16%, and then liquored it back with strong beer. I'd imagine probably it's not half lemonade. It's probably less than that they've liquored it back with, and they've had a fairly strong beer to start with. But the reason why it's irked me is because I think it's I have no issue with these products. Well, I have some issue with these products because I don't think it's particularly responsible drinking, because I would imagine it's incredibly sweet, incredibly easy to drink, but it's 8%, and that makes me nervous. But I don't necessarily have an issue with somebody making that outside of the alcoholism issue. The issue I have is that a well-respected, much-loved brewery that makes, on occasion, sensational beer is effectively cheapening its brand. And as a result of the fact that it is a well-respected, well-loved, large craft brewery, it's cheapening the entire craft brand. Craft beer already has this issue, I think, outside of the sort of the people that really love craft beer, as being no longer this sort of nerdy, God, you're weird, you love interesting beers with unique flavours thing. And it's now like, oh, you love that, hazy IPA stuff that tastes like fruit juice. You love those weird fruit sours that are 8% and are just loaded with sugar. You like the marshmallow puff pastry stouts, and I have no issue with those beers either, because they're legitimate beers. They're often beautifully made. But this is the next step along towards making people think that craft beer is about getting fucked up on high sugar alcohol.
Well, yeah. I mean, the fact that it's called Mind Haze Lemonade Rage is it makes me think of like Four Loko. Do you remember those
Yeah.
mental drinks that everyone used to get? Well, not everyone, but people used to get absolutely mullered on. Um, didn't have like wild names like that, like dragon fruit, crazy, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
That just the whole sort of branding of it, Mind Haze Lemonade Rage.
Turbo
It
Radler.
just Turbo Rage. It's like it looks like the branding is a bit like a kind of. It looks like it's out of a computer game, like a dystopian, futuristic, like Fallout type computer game, where you might pick up some.
It reminds me of the Tekken font, the Lemonade Rage bit.
It's a little bit Tekken-y. It's got a computer game sort of quality to it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The sort of all the turbo and the rage kind of looks a little bit like a Sega Mega Drive Streets of Rage sort of collab or something. Like very odd. I can imagine on Streets of Rage 16-bit, wasn't it? Or was it 8-bit? 16-bit. You're wandering along, side scrolling, and then you kick it, you roundhouse kick a box. Bam, bam, bam. And then out of the box shoots Lemonade Rage Turbo Rattler, and then that powers you up, and you can throw 10
Fuels
times as
more
many.
alcoholic rage.
Yeah,
Adds a new
yeah.
level to Streets of Rage, doesn't it? That they were all drinking Mind Haze at the time.
Mind Haze.
I mean, this is
Mind Haze Street Rage.
This is from the brewery that a couple of years ago, I guess maybe a couple of decades ago now, installed only the second Burton Union system in the world out of respect for British brewing heritage. And now look where we are. They're making Mind Haze Lemonade Rage Turbo Radler 8%.
Yeah.
What
it's pretty
a fall
funny.
from grace, like the reputation of craft has had. Like people worry about, big guys buying out breweries. People worry about all kinds of stuff that on the craft beer channel we've sort of gone, well, I'm not sure that's, we've worried about it, but we've gone, it's going to be fine. This it worries me deeply. This is not welcoming like curious minds to the category. It's saying, hey, you want to get messed up, craft beer has your back.
Yeah.
And that is not an approach I think craft beer should be taken in this time. Particularly in this time when the rest of the world is like, we should reduce our drinking. We should drink better, less but better. We should be responsible and aware, and we should be interested in people's mental and physical health, like our own and the people around us. All while breweries like Firestone, who have a huge mind share of American craft, going, nah, screw that. Let's get absolutely off our tits on alcohol and sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, meet Mind Haze Rage. It's beer, it's lemonade. It's cranked up to 8% ABV. Mind Haze Rage is a new line of turbo rattlers, literally loaded with all kinds of flavour. Crisp, crushable, and electric.
You shouldn't use crushable at 8%.
It's not crushable at 8%, is it?
Oh,
It'll crush your brains at 8%.
It gets worse with everything I read.
These are the sorts of beers that are perfect for patios, parties, pontoons, and everywhere else. Everywhere else, Johnny,
Don't
you feel
drink
like
8% Radlers on a pontoon, people.
everywhere else you feel like raging, Johnny. Raging. The
Oh,
rage
my
word
God.
is a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rage does imply out of control.
Yeah.
Raging
Yeah.
is like a wild party that's
It's
out
violent.
of control.
It's out of control.
Yeah, it's weird actually, isn't it? I'm not quite sure.
The Portman Group would shut this down in a heartbeat in the UK, and they'd be right to.
Yeah.
They would go,
Yeah.
everything about this is irresponsible. It cannot sit on
Raging.
shelves. And it'll be one of the few occasions where I go, Portman Group, you got it right.
Yeah, it is pretty. It's making you rage, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty ragey looking at it. It's really, I don't know, it's really got under my skin.
Well, that'll be the turbo quality of it. It's just absolutely electrifying your skin, Johnny. With
Yeah. I mean,
with
at
its
least,
rage
at least,
haze.
at least we used to pretend that these, smoothie, sour alcohol things were craft. Now they're just like, nah. Maybe it feeds into that thing we talked about in our video about what's going to be big in 2025, and we talked about more kind of down-to-earth, honest packaging. Maybe this is the dark side of that. It's not saying, hey, let's just enjoy some beer and not think about it too much. It's also saying, hey, let's just recognize that we all enjoy the effect of alcohol a bit
You
and
want
just
to get
turbo
trashed.
it. Yeah.
this is what you want if you want to get trashed. If you have a look at the link I've just sent you, Johnny, about the promotional images for this are quite strange. The lineup of characters. I don't know if the lady is she someone famous at Firestone Walker. Are you able to look at them?
Yeah, I'm looking. No, I recognise her. Why do I
recognise her too? I don't know who she is, but she just for everyone at home, she looks like a sort of how old would you say she is? Maybe late 50s?
Yeah, somewhere there, yeah.
Very trim, very proper looking in a kind of polo shirt and some sort of sassy jeans, some denims.
She looks like she should be telling you how to host a nice party in your house.
Yeah, she looks nice, right? She looks like someone from like Stepford Wives or something.
Like here's how to entertain your other rich friends.
Yeah,
but she's got like necking a Mind Haze.
Well, there's the photo I'm looking at. Looks like a pantry of like a sort of Hollywood house, like a sort of Desperate Housewife sort of house. But every single pantry opening is chocked full of rad packs of Mind Haze, Johnny.
Rad packs.
No, rad packs. That's what they're called.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd just come up with that right there.
No. You liked it though, didn't you?
Yeah,
so
I did.
I mean, this honestly, the packaging. If I've come back from America in January. If I saw this in Trader Joe's, I might have been tempted to pick. Would at least try and get a can of it because it looks mental. The packaging is mental. The pack says Rad Pack on it. Mind Haze. The fact that it's got an older lady who looks very proper advertising
it's very
it.
odd. Very
it's
odd
weird.
decision there.
It's weird. And then the photo above it is like two younger kind of people either side. There's a bro with a backwards baseball hat who's got the watermelon rage. And then there's a girl that looks like...
This
Are you seeing that?
I mean, I don't think we should just sit here describing the advert.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's good content, but it's a video. The image above on YouTube.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. If you watch
wow,
you can
okay.
see the vibe that they're going for, which is like she's being the mum to these mad but old kids.
Is that
in fact,
what it
is
is?
exactly who would drink it. The guy in the hat, I would imagine.
Right. Okay. It looks like Audrey Plaza.
It says "rage responsibly" at the end.
Wow. How do you rage responsibly? That's like the least rock and roll thing ever to sort of say rage responsibly. It's an oxymoron, isn't it? Isn't it the opposite? It's you can't rage responsibly. The whole point of a rage is an uncontrollable episode, right? That's just you're flying off the handle. So you can't rage responsibly. Rage against the machine, Johnny.
The quote here: "Rage responsibly against the machine." Yeah, I'm sure Zach De La Rocca is delighted. The brewmaster, Matt Brindleton, hugely respected brewmaster, fantastic brewer, creator of some of the best beers that I've ever tasted. This is his quote for the release: "I was inspired by a perfect summer day in Europe," says our brewmaster Matt Brindleton. "Sipping lemonade in the sun, I wanted to bring that back to the States with a twist. And at 8% ABV, this one's got a bit more bite." So wait, you sat there in the afternoon having a lovely sip of a Radler and go, the only thing that's missing is me being off my face.
He's like, damn, this tastes good.
This is great, but I want it to last
like
less time and make me feel worse and possibly make me harm somebody. What the...
Delicious, yummy soda, Johnny. I'm sitting here in the Berlin sunshine. I've got mild heat stroke. I've just come out of a weekend-long rage, a rave. I'm raging after my time in what's the most exclusive nightclub in the world that's in Berlin? Can't remember. But I've just come out of there. I managed to get in. He's got his full kind of clubbing wear on, whatever that might be. String vest. And some short shorts potentially, and a little beanie, teeny weeny beanie hat maybe, black of course. And he sat in somewhere great, a lovely park in Berlin, just getting on it, man, getting lit after a full rager, and thinking I just want to keep the party going. How do I bring this party back home with me?
Yeah,
Make
maybe
it bigger
the bit
and
he's
better.
left out is the night in the nightclub that he's just trying to keep the buzz going. This is I realise that we have spent a lot of time on this now on this podcast. 30 minutes of just raging against Mind Haze rage, but it is it's just horrible.
Rage against the corporate beer machine.
I mean, we used to take the piss out of Shock Top, which was essentially this, but a sensible ABV.
Yeah.
There's so much. There's so much going on in the craft beer scene at the moment that just makes me want to tear my back hair out. There's plenty there. It's just, it's very upsetting to see as people have, we've watched it come to its peak. We've been in this 12 years. We were loving beer for 2 or 3 years before that. Loving craft beer before that. We've seen. I don't think there's ever been a lower point in both reputation and innovation in craft beer. It truly this has been a terrible end to the week, Bradley.
Oh dear. Is
It's
it
very upsetting.
I have watched A Complete Unknown twice since it's been released at the cinema, which is the Bob Dylan sort of I don't know about biopic, but a story about when Bob went electric for the first time at Newport Folk Festival. So that is all about the tide in folk music changing, and the sort of the folkies absolutely having a freak out at Bob because he plugged his guitars in and made some loud noises, Johnny. So is this the moment that craft jumped the folk shark? If we craft and folk are the same thing, jumped the shark and plugged in its. I wouldn't say amplifier.
Turbo.
We went turbo, not electric. I'm sort of struggling to get there, Johnny.
Yeah,
but,
you're flirting with it, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. I think go and watch that film. It's a good film, actually, by the way. But it's a dumbing down, but it's also like a side mission, side swipe sort of thing. That's like a Pac-Man sort of through a maze trying to chomp up customers that might be drinking, whatever, like these, what they call the seltzers and all this sort of stuff out there. Maybe they're trying to.
I think seltzers have kind of died now, as far as I know. I don't think it was the hit internationally that people expected, and people overexpanded and that kind of stuff. But I think that probably is what they're looking for. They're looking for the next seltzer, and that is a reflection of the fact that it's very tough to be a brewery out there. I do understand why Firestone might produce this kind of product. I just think that they've gone about it in a very weird way with the ABV, which, I mean, will clearly be through market research as well. I don't think they've just done that to mess people up. I think they've done it because they've gone, this is what people want. But, if I were Firestone and I was thinking long term about my brand, and I was thinking, well, the heart of what we do is brewing amazing beer. So even if we do need to reach out and find other consumers, produce other stuff, if I were them, I would be keeping the name Firestone as far away from those products as possible. You'd be like, yes, we need to produce this. We need to find a market for it. We need to find sales because our brewing side, our heart is not doing very well. But we have to think in 10 years' time, if everything turns around and beer is cool again, are the people that we've put off. My opinion on Firestone changed this morning when I saw this completely. Am I going to, in 10 years' time, go back and go, yes, I'm interested in Firestone? I might, and as a journalist, I kind of have to be. I have to give them that chance. But man, if I was a drinker who'd been drinking Firestone for 20 years and I saw this coupled with, maybe a couple of beers that you haven't enjoyed quite as much recently, it could be enough to just go, you know what? I don't understand you anymore. I'm done. Hey Beer Geeks, Johnny here. Just in case I haven't mentioned it enough on the podcast, approached you in the street, or accosted you in your own home, I thought I'd make a quick advert about my new book, The Meaning of Beer. This travel book follows me on a 3-year adventure around the world to discover the surprising ways in which beer has helped build and shape the world. From inspiring the pyramids to funding monasticism, from inventing the fridge to changing modern medicine, and from lubricating the Nazi Party's first meeting to potentially solving climate change, with lots more in between. It's already been called enlightening by the amazing Ollie Smith and one of the most important books ever written about beer by fellow beer writer Mark Dredge, and it's available for pre-order now in hardback, ebook and audiobook for its release on the 7th of November 2024. Now back to the pod.
Well, yes, agreed. The whole time you've been speaking there, Johnny, I've just been coming up with the celebrity endorsement for them. It should be Harry Styles singing Watermelon Rage rather than Watermelon Sugar. And I can see the advert with him flouncing about in like an really open shirt, or maybe all the way down to his navel. And he's absolutely tanked and on
he's got
Mind
like
Haze.
he's got like a 60s 70s vibe at the moment. This is very 80s.
Yeah, it's kind of
I
80s, isn't
I
it?
don't know, maybe Taylor Swift instead of Lavender Haze.
Is that another song, Lavender Haze?
Yeah,
Okay.
she's
I'm
quite
not aware of it.
80s.
She is quite 80s. Fair enough.
Music wise, at the very least, synthy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I don't know.
Love
I
a
mean,
bit of
they
Swiftie.
can't afford either of those people, and that's clear by the fact that they need to make this kind of shit. Right. Apologies for all the swears. Another interesting release. So this is not exactly new.
Yes.
Because it's been done by breweries. In fact, it was done a lot by breweries during COVID when they had too much beer and they needed to find something to do with it. But Buffalo Trace have come out with a hopped whiskey. Buffalo
Hopped
Trace
whiskey?
is my favourite bourbon of like the the bigger guys.
Yeah.
And they've done a hopped bourbon, which I'm quite excited about. I'm going to drop them an email, see if they want to have a little chat.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think it's pretty cool. It's part of their experimental collection, so they're doing lots of different things. And it comes in small bottles. And it's a 45% bourbon style whiskey with it says grain and hops. I've been reading the article by Forbes, which claims it's by a guy called Joseph V. Mikulev, but it reads, I mean, he's definitely used AI for this. This is the first article I've read on a national, respected news website where I'm like, AI wrote this. So he's clearly tweaked it and added his thing, but like when he talks about the role of hops in beer and spirits, it goes into bullet points, which is always a telltale sign of the use of AI.
Yes.
And then there's just lots of weird things in there that you're just like, that's not right. So it says, while hops are traditionally associated with beer, they're occasionally used in spirits production. Generally speaking, a hopped beer or wash imparts bitter and sometimes off flavors. What's a wash? You wouldn't wash a spirit with hops. You'd wash a cheese with hops or with beer. So I think AI is getting a bit confused there, but it sounds very cool. And if it's not available in the UK, I'm still going to try and get hold of some from Buffalo Trace. And the other news, UK news, is that Keystone Brewing Group, the company that's been buying up every brewery that was going under, so Purity, Black Sheep, Brick,
Brew by Numbers,
have leapt to the saviour-ish of Magic Rock and Four Pure, who were once owned by Lion, got sold by Lion to a slightly mysterious group of investors that thought they could turn it around. Clearly they couldn't, and they've both gone under. So in a pre-pack deal, they've bought Magic Rock and Four Pure. What was really interesting is Magic Rock made the announcement, and there were lots of people being like, "Oh no, this is terrible! What a loss!" Everybody's saying, "Is this the end of craft as we know it?" Which people always do, and it's nonsense. But so they got all this big response. Four Pure put out their statement. I think it had 7 likes.
Wow.
Just nobody cares. Four Pure.
That is crazy, isn't it? 7 likes.
Yeah, something like that. At the time that I looked at it, which I mean, the news was about 24 hours old. They might as well just put a picture of a can and gone, "Who's thirsty?" Which is about the extent of most breweries' social medias that get nothing. But yeah, so Magic Rock, to those that don't know or don't remember or aren't from the UK, one of the formative and most important craft breweries in the UK. Highwire, their American Pale, was one of the most loved, most talked about beers when Brad and I were getting into beer in like 2012-ish, maybe 2013. It was probably hitting its top. And obviously they invented the Cannonball run. So Cannonball was their strong West Coaster. Unhuman Cannibal was their triple, and Human Cannibal, and then there's Neo Human. It became sort of one of the early brand exercises and one of the early sort of queue up hype releases. It was in April, I think, every year they'd release it.
We went to in Islington Craft Beer Co.
We did
for an Unhuman Cannonball release, didn't we? I remember filming that and being incredibly excited and thinking, what is this craziness? Why is everyone queuing for this beer? And why does it cost £10 a pint or whatever it cost at that time?
It was because it was 11% and hop to hell.
Yeah. But I remember just being blown away by every sort of angle of it, from the hype to the juice that I was drinking to the name. It was all it was pretty clever, and like the branding was good. They had Highwire, like you say. They were kind of like, at that time, sort of like Beavertown, those guys.
They were. That's a pretty good comparison. They were Beavertown before Beavertown were cool.
Yeah, they were like
the cool brewery.
They were big like that. They were like cool, and and a bit like, I don't remember them having personalities like Brewdog had personalities, but they were certainly incredibly well designed, well marketed, and like, to me, they had an allure and well brewed. Yeah, it had like everything. It was a perfect package. So, we saw them go into supermarkets I feel like that was quite early. Maybe they were in supermarkets, but that I just thought that was great when they were, you could get it in a supermarket as well. I thought, well, this is cool. We can get something that's, I think, is pretty cool, and it's easily available. It's spreading the good word of craft around to everyone. So it is sad to see how it's, fortunes have changed, how it's, perception has changed, the beer's changed, everything's changed, right?
Yeah, a lot of the time when we talk about breweries that have gone under and why breweries go under, a lot of people sort of point to, it's quite often the supermarket brands that are struggling. And I think it's not necessarily because they went into supermarkets. The supermarkets is, I guess, a reflection of what they were trying to do. So a lot of these brands maybe overreached, grew too fast, and accepted smaller margins in return for growth. And when those margins got squeezed, obviously suddenly they weren't making money off of the beer that they were brewing. And I think to some extent that's what happened to Magic Rock. I think also Magic Rock, they were a brand that had huge loyalty, both in Huddersfield, where they're from, and in the north in general, in sort of Leeds and Manchester. They were hugely loved, and in London as well. And when they sold to Lion, it was one of those brands that couldn't really get away with it. Like, if you were a Four Pure drinker, when they sold, I don't think anybody that drank Four Pure still really noticed. They weren't a brand that was loved locally and had a real loyal following. Whereas Magic Rock, most of the drinkers that love Magic Rock would not accept a Lion-owned brewery. So I think, that was probably the real kicker. And all it probably left them with was supermarket sales, really.
I think it'll go down as one of the sad stories of UK craft beer. Maybe that, we look back at giant, Victorian companies that were absolutely huge, or someone that, was creating something like a Blackberry or something like that was world changing, and then suddenly everything shifted and they're not relevant anymore. And I think that is maybe how, well, I guess it'll only be old fogies like me and you that even sort of remember them with any sort of reverence, potentially.
Definitely. If you got into beer post, 2016, 2017, you might just not nothing them. You'd be like, oh, the supermarket brand.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, oh, that's one of those, a fridge filler. It's a fridge filler brand.
Yeah, yeah.
And you might not realize that they were like the hypiest of hype juice at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. It's very interesting. And I don't know who founded it or anything, but I wonder how they feel about their life choices. I imagine they maybe made a lot of money selling it. I don't know. But
yeah, they made a decent way. So I know Rich, and I'm sure he did very well, and he's moved on to different things. And he actually messaged me a couple of weeks ago because he found an error in one of my articles, which I always appreciate.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they made their money from it, and he built something great. But I think that Rich, people underestimate early craft, sort of 2010 to 2015, 16. So just before New England, made superstars out of some breweries, it was brutal work. And it's those 5 years, as much as the last sort of 3 or 4, that has made me determined to never open a brewery, because I looked at the people that were running these breweries, and it was occasionally very exciting, and there was travel, and there were friends, and there were events, but they were making no money. They were working absurd hours. They were taking on huge amounts of, well, for like a solo person, because most of these companies were owned by 1, maybe 2 people, taking on huge debts, huge risks, and, working in cold railway arches, for almost no money. And it was, I think that Rich, and I think a lot of the breweries that sold out in the sort of the, like 2016, 2017, so, Beavertown, Magic Rock, Camden, all of these breweries, some of them intended to sell out from the start, I would imagine, but a lot of them were just burnt out, completely burnt out by the reality of small craft brewing in the UK. And so I doubt that Rich would regret his decision. I think he'd just be sad that the people he gave it to didn't do a better job with it.
Yeah, I guess that's what we can take away from that, is that, the thing that built all of these brands was a damn lot of hard work by dedicated people that didn't necessarily get a lot of rewards while they were doing it. But, that golden ticket potentially of, here's a big fat check, go and get warm, get out of the, the industrial unit that you're in, grafting, 18-hour days, probably would be pretty alluring, I imagine. And a sort of way out from maybe not a desperate situation, but like a hard situation that, like you say, people are like financed up to the hilt and working tirelessly at stuff, chipping away, trying to just make ends meet. So I can see it from both sides.
I mean, as a YouTuber and an author, I can sympathise. Particularly, you look at, I have no, overheads. We don't have an office, we don't have debts, we don't have employees that we have to worry about. But still, I look at my career in 10, 15, 20 years' time and go, what the fuck am I going to be doing in 20 years? I can't be a 60-year-old YouTuber.
Yeah.
And I think that unless you saw the success and the opportunities that, say, Sierra Nevada did, I can have a fairly cushy office job managing a large company that Ken Grossman could see 30 years in, to be fair to him. That I don't think that was the case for any craft breweries in the UK, because there just isn't that opportunity for growth in the UK because of the beer tie, because of the lack of margin that there is in British brewing. It's a very different situation to be a UK brewer to a US brewer. And initially, I was caught up in all the sort of the emotional swell of these breweries selling out and getting angry. And I still am angry at the people that were completely duplicitous about it. Like going, we'd never sell, and then 6 months later, turns out they were already signing papers with Heineken. But I don't judge them in the slightest. I'm more likely to judge James Watt, who was completely duplicitous and has used, as far as we can tell, pretty horrific business practices to jump the hurdles that other people couldn't, It could well be that certain breweries looked at those hurdles and went, I'm not willing to be that person to do those things. I'm going to sell up, and I guess let somebody else do it if they want to. James Watt has had a torrid week, I would imagine. He's had to come out defending himself after the rest is entertainment. So the Richard Osman and oh my god, I keep forgetting her name. One of my favourite Guardian writers. It'll come to me. On the Rest is Entertainment, their podcast, which is part of the Goalhanger, Gary Lineker's company, did a whole episode just taking down James Watt and his idea for, is it House of Unicorns? Like he's trying to take down Dragon's Den with his own concept.
Oh, right.
Because he's been shirked twice by them.
Yeah.
And they just laid into him. It's if you are a Brewdog hater, as I imagine most of our listeners are, it's well worth a listen. It's a I saw somebody describe it as a surgical put down of James Watt, and it is very, very good. But it all digs into, to some extent, James Watt was willing to do some stuff that other people just wouldn't be.
Okay.
And it's a real shame that Magic Rock has gone this way, and it's a real shame that Brewdog have gone that way. But it's hard to find that middle ground, I think, in the British beer industry. Anyway, this has been a very a very beery podcast, Bradley, hasn't it?
Very beery, also like quite sort of down on itself a little bit.
Yeah.
In turmoil. Beer in turmoil.
Should we dig into the morning where I drank 8 Munich Helles and filmed it?
What about Lidl? We haven't even got onto Lidl yet.
Oh, but I've got dark views about that as well.
Okay. Well, Lidl are opening. They've applied to open up a first ever pub in store in Northern Ireland. So they've applied to have a pub in a Lidl store in Northern Ireland, which is, I think, quite an interesting move, Johnny. They've had it approved, I believe. People have been trying to fight it for a while. I think there's some rule about you can't create a new license in Northern Ireland without buying the license from another venue that's shut down or something.
Yeah, exactly that. So this is why I have a real issue with what's happening over there. So there's a limited number of licenses available in Northern Ireland. And this has been a real issue for craft brewers in Northern Ireland because they haven't been able to open tap rooms. And so, there's a limited number. Therefore you can only grant a new license if somebody else has closed down or if you take one over. So the fact that these licenses literally come up, I would imagine, every couple of years, despite that fact, the government has gone and given it to a fucking Lidl. So you could go and drink in a lino-floored, fluorescent-lit supermarket selling discount import white-labelled German lagers, or they could have given that license to a small, innovative business that would support, local producers, local growers, local communities, create something special and unique for Northern Ireland.
When you put it like that, Johnny, doesn't sound quite as fun as I pitched in my head, which was
have a beer after you shop.
Yeah, it was like, well, they already sell pretzels, don't they? Soft pretzels in there in the bakery, the in-store bakery. So I'm like, soft pretzel, maybe pick up a little packet of cheese as you're wandering around, some cheese cubes. They don't do those yet over here, but they should do. Some cheese cubes, soft pretzel, maybe some continental mustard.
I very much doubt you'd be able to just pick it up in the supermarket, then go eat it in the pub. Yeah. You'll have to go to the pub and buy that at a higher price, I imagine.
It says the pub would allow customers to buy draft and bottled beer, wine, cider and spirits with the off-license stocking products normally available on Lidl supermarket shelves. Oh, I presume they're talking about the beers that are normally available. Sorry, I misread that. I was reading it as if you could go just have a little saunter around the bakery and pick up your soft pretzel and some lumps of cheese and then go and have a beer.
No, it's not a picnic area.
It's not a picnic area, Johnny. Yeah. It's very much not. But I tell you what, they're going to have 3 toilets in there.
That was right at the top of the article, wasn't it, on the Daily Mail? What? You really haven't found any context here. You've just read the press release.
Just a little bit of context. I mean, there are no toilets in Lidl's or Aldi's, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, okay. Now I'm seeing the interest.
Every other supermarket you go to, there's a toilet, right? So I've got friends that have got issues where they have special keys to use toilets because they're not very well. So public toilets they can get into with keys and stuff. I've been caught short, and then tried to rush into a supermarket to use a toilet and found the toilet closed. But I know not to go into a Lidl or an Aldi because I know they don't have toilets, Johnny.
Well, Brad,
So,
if you're ever in Northern Ireland, your Lidl might.
Dundonald. If
Might
I'm ever
rescue
in
you.
Dundonald near Belfast, and it happens to be within the trading hours of the Lidl, I would have a toilet that I could use potentially.
Yeah, there you go. So there is a silver lining to the to a further crushing blow to the independent pub and brewing scene of Northern Ireland. Good. Good. Right, this week's video.
Yeah, man.
So this was me doing something I've wanted to do for a long time, which was a blind taste test of Münchner Helles. So Helles that have the PGI protection of essentially proving that they're brewed in Munich using the groundwater and some other bits, which... Because I genuinely didn't know, and I said in the video that you and I discussed it at length a couple of times, and I've never quite known what my favourite was, so that's why I wanted to do it. I sometimes drink Augustina and go, ugh, I don't understand why this sulphury thing is so Moorish, and I want to find out if I preferred any others. And what I found, as always, by doing these videos, is a huge variation in the flavours. We assume that macro beer tastes the same. It doesn't. We assume that all Munich Helles taste the same. They don't. If you drink them all in quick succession next to each other, they're very different beers, thanks to the different processes, different locations, different ingredients. And so up top came Tegz, so not a Münchner Helles, but a Helles brewed, about an hour drive south, I think, of Munich. But Augustina won out in terms of the actual Helles. And watching back the edit, I'm annoyed at myself a little bit.
Go on.
Because I recognised the Augustina as the only beer that I recognised.
Yeah.
And then I gave it second place. I just, in my head, wonder or worry whether I was biased into doing that. Because as a Helles, it shouldn't. Yeah. It was pretty... I marked down some other beers because they weren't precisely to style, but I worry that I didn't do that with the Augustina in the moment.
But surely, what you mean, it's not to style enough, so you shouldn't have given it as higher marks as you did. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with this with our blind taste test because I don't quite know what the balance is in my judging. Is it like 50% I mark it to style and 50% I mark it as to how delicious it is? That's sort of what I think I'm doing in my head. But yeah, I wonder with Augustina whether because I knew what it was, and I knew... no is a strong word, because you're thinking these things through really quickly. It's not heavily edited, these videos. They are my instant reactions, and the decisions are quick. I worry that some subconscious bias meant that I recognised it was Augustina. Therefore, I knew it was a Münchner Helles. I knew it was, who am I to say it's not to style when it's Augustina, almost the definitive Helles. So I think I marked it a little bit higher than maybe I should to style. And I also worried that if I didn't mark it well, people would...
lynch you.
Well, no, maybe. I mean, in the comments, it's all people just going like, Augustina, easy. So maybe they would have lynched me. But no, more, maybe they would have respected my judgment less if I didn't like Augustina.
Well, I think you should do a video, like maybe a short, where you take down Augustina, and then we try and get it to go viral.
Oh my god! Smack talk Augustina for 90 seconds on Instagram.
Yeah, because Augustina. I mean, as we've said, it's one of my favorite beers. I know you like it a lot, but you think it's too sulphurous and not quite.
Well, I did
style.
before this, but now it looks like I prefer it to all the other Helles in Munich.
That's because it's the best. But there you go. But do you know
what?
what?
Tegz.
The Tegz is good, but it's not a Munich Helles, though, is it? It's not from Munich, right? So, then it is the best. It's got Grandad from the Munsters on the front of it, which I love. It's got great branding, great colours. I think there's a lot in a name. I think Augustina sounds like brilliant. Like I'd love to order an Augustina at a bar. You know, I just think it's got. There's something in saying that word, or maybe it's because it sounds a bit like August, the height of summer. You know, I've said before it's my favorite street drinking beer, which makes me sound like some sort of outlaw, turbo shandy, Mind Haze nutter. But I'm not talking about getting messed up in a park in Berlin after an all night rager. I'm just talking about, you know, summertime, having a beer somewhere in the sun and just drinking one of those is absolutely crushable and delicious. That, you know, I say drinking one of them, you then have another one and then maybe a third and go, well, I should probably cycle home now.
So what was your impression? So you put a reel up shortly after the video went live of you in Beer Merchants having a bottle of the Tegz. How'd the Tegz go down?
Amazing. Like, the Tegz is absolutely amazing. It's a brilliant beer, Johnny. Look, it might even be better than Augustina, but there's something about everything coming together in Augustina that I think makes it appeal to so many people. It's that slightly off flavour. I think you said it was like rotting vegetation or something, which I think that's harsh, but there's something a little bit naughty about it, which is a little bit of, not funk, but something a little bit off note, which tastes amazing. And it's just a super Moorish beer that I think somehow through time and space and fortune, it just has a great name, great bottle, great, slightly strange, memorable taste, and it just appeals to loads of people.
Whereas I get like Tegz, I think, and there are a couple of comments about this from people saying you need to go to Tegz and see where it's brewed and drink that in as well, because I think creating that association will make it more powerful. Whereas I think Augustina almost has that association, like you say, because of the great branding, the great name, the fact it's poured at Oktoberfest, the fact that if you've been to Munich, it's everywhere. It has that magic of branding already, whereas Tegz doesn't.
Let's not forget about, you know, their brew house as well, which is absolute class. It's like incredible.
Wait, you mean the Keller, Augustina Keller?
The Keller, sorry, the Keller. Yeah. It's amazing. I think it's maybe my favourite one out there. It's super cool.
Yeah, it's my favourite beer hall in Munich. It's amazing.
It's incredible, and you know, like it's very Germanic when you go outside, and there were like people skating on ice and stuff when we went there. I seem to remember.
Well, they were curling.
Whatever they were doing, they were like messing about on ice, and I thought, well, that's cool. I hope I don't fall over, but which is a daily issue for me. But yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. Going back to my thoughts on Tegz, I got it out of the fridge having watched the video, but I didn't want to give away what had won. So I just talked about it and said it's your favourite historically, which it is. And I'd just been drinking, just prior to that, 2 Omnipollo barrel-aged barrel-aged pastry stouts, because I needed the glass bottles to make a video. So me and Kirsty, I said, well, look, if I don't drink it here, I'm going to struggle to drink it. So we drank Noah, and I think it's called a Carême. I can't remember how you say it. But yeah, 2 big imperial stouts, basically. Coming off the back of those, drinking a Tegz, I was like, damn, that tastes fresh, buddy. It was so good. And that isn't saying that I didn't have a great time drinking the pastry boys, but just cracking that, I was like, damn, I see what Johnny's on about. This is an absolute refresher in my mouth right now. This is superb.
I will say I checked the bottle after I'd filmed as well of the Tegz, and it was pretty bang fresh.
Yeah, I think mine was super fresh.
Even having had, was it the last? No, Augustine was the last one I drank. I can't remember where in the set I drank Tegz, but it was, and I say in the video, I'm like, yes. Like, it just instantly jumped out, and it was the second freshest bottle on the day, but it just, You know, when you drink really fresh lager and it feels like it's alive and it's nourishing and it's like fresh warm bread. It was just like that for me, which none of the other beers really were. So it could be a slight freshness thing as well.
It was like I'd been drinking chocolate milkshake, and then I'd had a nice, like, something that felt like it was doing me some good after a sugar overload, almost. Like drinking the Tegz. I was like, oh shit, this is what beer is. This is what, oh God, what have I just done? I've just drunk these two insanely tasty but like mental pastry stouts, and now I've re-centered myself to a Tegz.
Yeah, it's like having a salad after 3 days in the Czech Republic. It's just like, oh yeah.
Well, I don't do salad, but yeah, I get what you're saying. It's I understand the metaphor, but yeah, I felt very centered, and I was like, this is a beer. This is the beer. This is a great beer. I know what Johnny's on about, and probably I would have got that from an Augie. Can we call it an Augie? Probably not. But it needs a good name, doesn't it, Augustina?
Well, I think it's one of those names you shouldn't abbreviate, Augustina.
Yeah, probably not.
I've got a question for you. It's a comment from Rob Hopzine.
Yeah, I was going to pick that one.
Were you going to pick that one as well? Because I want to ask you the question, because I'm not quite sure. But so Rob says, I called it before it started. You are such a Tegz man. I can spot you from a mile off. As much as I love Tegz, Augustina is my number one all day long. My question is, what do you reckon a Tegz man, or woman, of course, looks like?
So, it's someone who is maybe a bit of a social pariah, like an outlier. doesn't go with a no, pariah is a bit harsh. Not a pariah, sorry. So you are maybe a contrarian.
Oh right, okay.
Johnny. Like, you don't want to be seen the same as everyone else. You're like, no, I've got my own mind. But, Augies are great, but, if you tried a Tegz's Midnight Runners, they're pretty good too. Have a listen. Put them on your ear, get them around your laughing chops.
I already regret asking. So it's a contrarian. It's somebody that wants to be seen as different.
I don't think so. I do think it is someone who maybe has had a deeper dive into things and hasn't just gone to the first port of call, or indeed looked around a Clapton bar and gone, what's everyone drinking? I don't want to drink orange wine. I'll drink one of those big bottles of Augustina, does it say? Yeah, one of those bottles of beer over there that guy with the teeny weeny beanies drinking, please. It's you're because that in like trendy East London, they're huge. Augustina, everyone loves Augustina. They're not wrong. It's brilliant, but like it's memeable now. The sort of love of teeny weeny beanies, Carhartt, Augustina. These things are like synonymous with. We can't call them hipsters because they're not hipsters, but whatever the kind of trendy kids are these days. That's what they're doing. They're wearing
it's
the
Kraft's.
Carhartts
It's Kraft's form of like Pabst Blue Ribbon, isn't it? It's like Kraft's form of normcore.
It's an everyman drink. It's a normcore drink. Maybe
normcore with craft values.
But it's like you're not a Guinness boy or whatever. So maybe you're an Augustina man. Like you're not one of these Guinness boys that are just watching other Guinness boys drinking Guinness. And tipping their pints sideways to see how far they can push it before it spills. What's that about? Why is everyone doing that, Johnny?
I haven't seen this. So they're tilting it to show like the retention of the head.
Yeah, like the lovely. It's lovely, admittedly. The pillowy whiteness on the top of a Guinness. I've seen so many people just out and about tipping their beer on a dangerous precipice, Johnny. They're going to lose beer. Seeing how far they can push it sideways to see how resilient the head is on there, basically. I wouldn't do that with a pint. No way. I'm not into that.
Not risking it.
But no.
I like this idea that Augustina is kind of memeable, or it's the Guinness, or it's the trendy macro lager. I think that makes some sense to me. I wonder if there's an Instagram account in trying to be a ginfluencer, but for Augustina.
100%.
Like just going around trying to go like, this is the best pint of Augustiner I've had.
And they're all out of bottles.
And they're all, all pasteurized filtered beers out of bottles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's great. Let's do that. Let's just start a new thing. We'll just do that.
Okay, once we find the name for it.
Well, there's Real Housewives of Clapton.
Augustinfluencer.
Oh, hello. I think you might have started something there. But have a look at those two grabs I've sent you from Real Housewives of Clapton. Has that come through?
It hasn't. Sadly.
It hasn't. Damn.
Sadly, I'm still mystified as to what that account even is.
Oh, right. Okay. I don't know why that hasn't come through. That is bizarro. But it has like maps of London and the drinks that people consume in them. And it also has, there you go, I've just sent it to you. And then it's got one called What Guys Actually Carry Under Their Teeny Weeny Beanie Hat. And it is 3 Augustinas, an Idols ticket to go and watch Idols.
A tech deck? What's going on there?
A tech deck, back? Like a finger skateboard, an Adam Grant book. I don't know what the deal is with the keys. Oh, they're taking the piss out of people who wear their keys on a carabiner on their belt loop. And then, what is that, a little coffee sort of thing? I don't know what that thing is.
Yeah, it's a Harry V60. I've got one of those.
What is it? Is that a filter?
It's for filter coffee, yeah.
Oh, it's a drip coffee thing, yeah. So that is the league it's in now, Johnny. It's in with all of that stuff.
There you go, see?
There you go, mate. And then there's the topographical tube
you've
map
described really well what an Augustina person is.
Yeah. What's a Tegz?
How can Rob see a Tegz person miles off?
Because they are... Oh, they're not wearing a teeny weeny beanie. They have got glasses on, and they're actually reading. They're reading a label. They're reading the label on the beer, Johnny.
Oh,
they're not just going. They're not just going. Oh hell yeah! There's Grandpa from the Munsters on the front, and it's green, and it's got that beautiful gold writing on it. There's a little bit of purple on there somewhere. I seem to remember. It's as a graphic designer, you're like, ooh, that's beautiful. Great color palette. I'm having one of those. Tegz doesn't really shout as much. It's very like beige, the label, with a bit of blue on it.
Well, yeah, it's blue. Blue and white. It's
blue,
Bavarian colours.
Blue and white. But it's sort of beigey looking. So it's a beige. Yeah, it's unassuming, I would say. Whereas Augustina's got like a bit of theatre about it. It feels traditional as well, in the same way that drinking a Sierra out of a bottle, kind of as a designer, you look at that and you're like, oh, it looks like oldie worldy. It's got so much California charm to it, Johnny. It feels like one of the first craft beers that was ever made, because it was. And, it has that intrinsic value in the packaging that transcends maybe the liquid in the bottle a little bit, where you have a bit of reverence for it, I think.
Yeah.
As an aesthetic person. Whereas maybe you are a person that relies more on your taste buds and actually what things taste like rather than what things look like, or the perception of things, how other people might view you for drinking them, which I don't give a monkey's what people see me drinking, as you very well know. But I will drink the same drink again and again if I like it. I don't have a need to try lots of different things. But I think drinking an Augie, maybe it is shorthand for like, I'm in the cool kids club. Whereas a Tegz just doesn't have the rep, buddy. Nobody's repping a Tegz.
Well, maybe it's me that doesn't care.
It's a deep cut. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. You don't care. But you're more on.
But you're saying you don't care, but you're an Augie. You're an Augustinfluencer. It's not very good. I don't like it.
It's not
we'll
good,
have to find
is it?
Something else.
Yeah.
I'm still. I mean, we are essentially asking ourselves why some brands work and some brands don't. So it's obviously an incredibly complicated thing to come up with. But there is definitely an Augustina drinker. I'm skeptical that there's a Tegz drinker.
Yeah.
It might be somebody that once loved Augustina and then found Tegz and went, well, now I can be different. But I mean, genuinely, I'd like to think of myself as a journalist as somebody who cares about the liquid most, and that's why it's important that there's two people on this podcast, I guess, because then there's somebody that also goes, well, hang about. The visuals are very important too. But yeah, I'll reply to Rob and see if he's got an answer for it. That's basically all we've got time for. We're up to an hour, Bradley, and we have spent an hour talking about beer, which I think in 200 and what are we on? 203 or 4 episodes. That is the only time we've managed that.
I haven't derailed us once. I tried with Bob Dylan chat, but I didn't get too far. Go and watch that. It's great. And I'm trying to think if he drinks any beer in it. He's drinking whiskey, I think, maybe at one point. I don't think, maybe it's a hop infused whiskey. I doubt it.
Could be.
But yeah, it was great talking about beer with you, Johnny, for an hour. How he would have thought it.
Yeah.
I know, right? And I drank some nice beers this week. You drank some great beers. I was watching the video thinking that looks like great afternoon.
Well, it was morning,
all of those
actually.
delicious beers. Well, morning. Like,
Yeah.
That's the harsh reality, isn't it, buddy?
Exactly, that's the thing you don't see.
Yeah.
And also, I've not been very well. As I said, I brought the plague back from Switzerland, so I didn't actually finish those bottles, which I'm sure is going to upset a lot of people.
Swiss. You finished the Tegz, though, right?
I didn't finish nothing. It was morning, and I wasn't feeling very well.
God. Oh, wow.
So, yeah, they I mean, I bought 2 of every bottle, though, so I will be re-indulging, and I'm glad I did because the Tegz was fresh. But yeah, that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you so much for listening and for watching this week's video, and indeed Brad's reel, which was a surprise to me when he put it live about 10 minutes after I'd done my post to promote the video. I was like, give it an hour or so, Bradley.
Oh, it wasn't 10. Well, it was longer than that, wasn't it? I hope this doesn't cannibalize Johnny's video. Post. And it didn't, because you've got loads of likes.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. And yours has done well as well. What?
I'm just strengthening. Go and watch it. And then I did a little story that had a link to the video.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Sorry, I didn't want to make you feel silly there. I was 100% for it.
Two pastry stouts in, I was like, I'm going to do a little shout.
I'm going to go live on Instagram.
Oh, go live. But no, I just thought this will help bolster the thing. I think also we're coming, it's Friday. It's the end of January, isn't it? 31st of January today, mate. We're out of the woods now.
Oh my
God,
we're
into February.
All over the world, people are like, I get to have a beer tomorrow or at midnight.
Yeah.
Wow.
People are looking chiseled. They can see their chins again, maybe. They're like, damn, look at my jawline. I look brilliant.
Just to be clear,
I can see my cheekbones.
That's not what happens during dry January. You don't lose weight that drastically.
No, they don't. You don't. I've just eaten loads of chocolate in January. That's what I've done. Just Christmas chocolates. And then I'm already a crackhead for sugar anyway. So the Christmas is always difficult for me with chocolate because all year I'm trying to be good. And then Christmas happens and I fall off the wagon and I'm chocoholic again. But they've brought out, Johnny, just before we end, the Terry's chocolate orange chocolate bar is out at the moment.
Oh no!
Which has got
a portable chocolate egg.
Yeah, it's egg-shaped slices, like orange slices,
that could be the end.
Like laid out. But it also has like little mini Smarties, orange crunchy little Smarties in, but obviously Terry's branded ones. I think it's the best chocolate bar around. And I may have had 3 of them this week or in the last week and a half.
Good Lord.
I've got a problem. I've got a real problem. Pastry stouts and Terry's chocolate orange problem.
Well, Bradley, at least it's not Mind Haze watermelon rage, you know?
It's not available. It's not available, buddy.
Yeah, it would be if you could get hold of it. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We won't see you next week. There won't be an upload, I'm afraid, but we are getting so close to the release of Keep Cask Alive. So we'll be announcing when that will be going live. If not next week, the week after. And then it will start arriving in your inboxes very soon. I'm very excited. I sent Brad last night the next episode that I've just finished is a strong word for what it is, but laid out narratively. And yeah, it's starting to feel really real, and I'm very excited to put it out to the world in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that, and I promise normal service will be resumed afterwards, because we've got so much content off the back of Keep Cask Alive. You are not going to be starved of Cask Ale content for the rest of 2025, and obviously we'll be filtering in lots of other stuff to keep everything fresh. So yeah, we'll see you on the podcast next. You'll hear us on the podcast next week, but no upload on Wednesday. So yeah, till Friday, love and beer. The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the craft beer channel. And if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.